This is going to be so good. How purpose and connection can drive performance. My favorite topic. Purpose. The purpose for each of our lives. I want you to help me to welcome Shalimar Cabrera. She's the executive director at United States Veterans Initiative right here in Las Vegas. Shalimar, has served for nearly 20 years. You barely look 20 years old. So whatever you're using, I need a gallon of it. Ladies, Shalimar and her dedicated team have developed highly successful programs for veterans and veteran families who are experiencing homelessness to include outreach, service-enriched housing, rapid rehousing, homeless prevention, and employment and training programs. I love that. Shalimar is well known for her transformational leadership style and culture coaching, strong administrative skills, and her expertise in fundraising and community and event organizing. She has a bachelor's degree in biology. Okay. I mean, I don't know if anybody just caught that. It's biology. She's just a smarty pants chick is what she is. And she's got a master's degree in social work from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Shalimar's values are leadership, success, and my personal favorite, love. She lives in her values by serving others, creating lasting impact in the community, and inspiring people to reach their full potential. Shalimar, come on and give us what you got there, girl. Down there. Hey, there's that. There's this.
And is it left is what I heard? Yeah, I'm going to go back to lunch. Hello. I always sit in there in my seat while people are introducing, feel uncomfortable, except for the part when they go like, you've done this for 20 years, you look so young. My team would tell you, I started when I was 13, so you can do the math. Okay, I have a hard job because I had to cut you off from all of your wonderful conversations you're having and also now keep you engaged after like all the food, right? But I do better and I give you all my energy if I feel energy from all of you. So are we in it? Because this is the second half of the game here. I read it like, keep us going, keep us alive. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's the kind of energy I'm feeling. I'm really honored to be here. What a great way to start the week with a room full of women who are all about professional development and growth and connecting with each other. So exciting. And also the fact that we're really talking a lot today about ourselves, because as leaders, we are often always dedicated to talking about others and how we're supporting others. Today, we are going to talk about how we stay inspired ourselves. Okay? So yes, the topic I chose, how purpose and connection can drive performance. And I loved it when I walked in and Rhonda was talking about purpose. I was like, yes, this is it. It's all going to connect. And it's something all of the panels have said something that resonates here. So this is going to be exciting. The first thing I'm going to do, because I want to keep us engaged though, is I'm going to ask you all to play a little game with me, okay? And we're going to be a little interactive. For this exercise, though, I'm going to ask you to be very honest with yourselves and to lean in with some vulnerability and know this is a safe space to share your answers when I do this, okay? So I'm going to ask you to stand when one of the situations I talk about has resonated with you in your career. I'm going to ask you to stand and then stay standing. It's after lunch, so I need people to like stand. It's a good thing to do that, right? My watch always tells me to stand. So the first is please stand and stay standing. If you have ever felt in your time of your career so unmotivated that you have hit a wall and have had a hard time getting back up. Thank you for your honesty. First group to go. Thank you. Stay standing. What about if you have ever said to yourself, I cannot deal with another staff member's drama. Or one more challenge somebody else is bringing to me, even though I know that's my job. I cannot today. Or how many of you have ever questioned, am I even making a difference? Or am I enough? Yeah, so let's look around the room. Thank you for your honesty. Just look around the room here and see that we are all standing. Those are all examples from my own self that I shared with you. Thank you. Please go ahead and have a seat. Thank you for standing. And thank you for being honest. The thing to know there is that You are not alone, right? We are not alone in that space. And it's important to know that it's okay not to be okay sometimes, especially as leaders. We carry big burden, right? What we're going to talk about today is the importance of how we get ourselves to the other side. Since we saw that we were all standing unified, that all happens to us at some time or another, it's important to recognize then when that happens, how do we get to the other side? How do we give of our best selves so we can continue giving to others? All right. And I like to say this is like a different type of self-care workshop, or the work-life balance that our friend in the floral dress here asked earlier. I like to say, we like to be a little extra US vet. So this we consider an extraordinary way of thinking about how to take care of ourselves, okay? How to get to the other side. Let me set my intention for today of what we're going to cover. I'm going to help all of us identify who we are at our best, so we can call upon that when we hit those times that called for us to stand just a second ago. Then we're going to talk about how to feed your purpose. There's Rhonda's favorite topic, she said, mine too. And then finally, we're going to talk about the power of connection and how these three things can help us bring ourselves to the other side when we're feeling unmotivated, okay? There is a handout, but don't get distracted by it. I'm sorry, I see that my font's here messed up, so I don't know why some are capital and some not. That's a lesson for me. But anyway, let me set the stage. We're going to talk the importance of connection to three things today: connection to self, connection to purpose, and then connection to others. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually let you connect with me, because I am going to share the single most important thing I did for myself recently to stay motivated. Now, my wellness friends in the room are going like, you must be exercising. I did buy a Peloton this year, but not that. Some of you going like, maybe you're sleeping, maybe you're unplugging at a certain time. Those things are all very valuable. Even more impactful than that is something I recently did. I named my values. You guys are like, that's better than a Peloton? Because I had heard about Peloton. It is actually better than Peloton, although I love that thing too. Yeah, I named my values, and it has been very impactful for me. How many of you, well, let me say what a value is, what I'm talking about first about a value. It's a belief or a way of being that we hold most important. Today, when I talk about living into our values or professing our values, I'm talking about making sure that everything we do lines up. So our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions is in alignment with my values. That's what I'm talking about when I say living into our values, okay? Now, there are a lot of values, right? Today, our panel hit on a few of them. Tanika talked about the value of authenticity. Susan talked about the value of, oh, you're right in my blind spot. There you are. Integrity. Ileana talked about the value of curiosity. There's a long list of values, right? How many of you feel like you know your values? Excellent. Anybody done this with Brene Brown? Yeah? Okay. Good. How many of you know your two most important values? Excellent. All right, good. We are going to cover this. Now, let's just be clear. That was not the majority of us who raised our hands. And that's okay, because after this, you will know how to do so. Most of us do not take the time to name our two most important values. Now, why two? There's a long list of values. Right? There's probably even some missing from this very long and apparently tiny font here list of values. But we say narrow it down to two, because if everything is of equal importance, then really what is most important, right? And you'll find that the two that you select are like you. That is like you, no question. So this work was impactful to me. It was based on the book Dare to Lead by Dr. Brene Brown. Our team read this in 2021, and it impacted our organization. We've been doing it in Las Vegas now for 15 months, and now I'm taking it around our national sites across the country doing this, because that is how impactful it's been for us. The worksheet I gave you today, along with our branded pen, of course, is the exact worksheet every single one of our employees does that works for us. And every single new hire does it within 90 days of working for us, because we believe in the importance of knowing what our people's values are so that we can feed them, and so they can share them, and we can affirm them when we see them in motion. And so what I'm not going to let you do is do it today, right now, because it's not enough time. I want you to have the right mindset, a quiet space, your favorite blanket or tea or whatever it's going to take for you to really reflect on this, because it's a long list. How are you going to get down to two, right? One of my staff said, well, in my first draft, I narrowed it from 44 to 42. I said, okay, well, keep going. The idea is that you will get to 10 to 15 that really resonate with you. And then you're going to take a look because you got to get to 2. And some of those you will see are so similar that one ends up being enough to cancel out the other one. You will narrow it down. And then even better is that there's a values filter. 3 questions that you will ask yourself to help you figure out your most important 2. Number 1, does this define me? Number 2, is this who I am at my best? Remember, that was my first agenda item, how to identify who you are at your best. And then number 3, is this value what I use as a lens in which I make hard decisions? Really introspective questions. When you can say yes, yes, and yes, you'll come to realize, oh my God, no question. This is for sure me. I just didn't even know those are my values, my most important ones. One of my colleagues at our Hawaii site, when I did this, said, not only did that give me clarity of how I make decisions in the future, that gave me so much clarity of why I've made decisions in the past. Because when you can figure out, like, this is what I'm about, this is basically the lens in how you see the world and how you move forward. And it tells you that who we are, meaning our values, is how we lead. It's how we lead through life. And that's why we don't say pick your personal versus your professional values, because your values are your values. They're whether you're playing a board game. I saw that one day with some friends. I'm like, oh, that is that value showing up right now. Or you're leading at work, or you're leading your family at home. No matter what you do, they're your values. They're how you see the world. That's how you lead in the world. When you have that lens, it can be very profound. You start to really connect with yourself and have a better understanding of yourself and can explain to others why you make decisions the way you do, right? So who we are is how we lead. Adam Grant, another great author, he says, following your values is a necessity. So for instance, until 2021, I did not know that my most important value was leadership. Looking back now, it makes complete sense. I only have 25 minutes, so I won't tell you about how my story came to be. But a great example of how now that I know my value, how I use this. Months ago, I was asked to consider being a speaker for this summit, right? And then I was given the choice. As many of you know, you can be a panelist or you can be a keynote speaker. So I have spoken in way too many conferences about homelessness among veterans that I can count as a panelist. I have never been when I said yes to this, I had never been a keynote speaker for anything before. My first time being a keynote speaker, ironically enough, was last Thursday for a different conference. But in the moment when I was trying to make the decision, I was like, panelists would definitely be the easiest. And I was having a little bit of imposter syndrome going like, am I good enough to be a keynote speaker not about homeless veterans too? Because I mean, give me a microphone. Let me talk about the importance that veterans should not be homeless in our community. And I'm going to talk all day, right? Thank you for stopping. But I'm going like, well, this is a leadership development summit. So I thought, well, I'll just take the easy way and just be a panelist. I don't have to lead it. But actually, my leadership value would say, step out of your comfort zone. You're a leader. And my second value is success through impact. I know this work has impacted me and I know it can impact others. So my value called me to do something different instead of just be a panelist. And instead it caused me to lead something that I know will impact others, because then I could be fully living into my values. See that example? Thank you for that. Values are a steady compass. They point you towards a future purpose. Like it's a map. If this is how I see the world, then how I will make decisions will follow these values, right? And then values bring you meaning. And I'm going to talk about the difference between meaning and joy real quick. On this slide is a picture of some donuts. I have never met a donut that I do not like, okay? Donuts is my reward. Like after I submit a huge grant proposal or finish a huge project, donuts. When I'm super stressed, donuts. Well, now it's Peloton because my life has been changed, but I still love a good donut. Why, when you're drained and you eat a donut, it's so good in that moment, and I'm still drained when I'm done with the donut, right? Because the donut did not bring me lasting meaning, right? But other activities like following your values or even things that have a deeper meaning for you can actually sustain you when you really need that extra motivation, right? That's going to make the difference besides better than a donut. I have a girlfriend who has stepped down from her nonprofit role and is now campaigning for office, which is very impactful in itself. But the other day she's like, I'm so bored and I don't know why. And I said, well, what are your values? And she said, I think they're probably hope and creativity. And she's like, am I bored because I haven't been creative? I'm like, when's the last time you did something creative? I'm like, like campaigning is not that creative. It's actually very formulaic, right? And she's like, I have done or created anything in like 6 months. And she was shocked. She's like, oh my God, that's what I got to do. And she's like, how did you know to ask me that question? I was like, girl, I got a whole workshop on it. So stand by. I got more for you. But if your value is curiosity, like Ileana said, how important it is to be curious, and you're not being curious about anything new or considering any new perspective, you might feel like a little something is missing in life. If your value is growth and you haven't actively been able to flex like your growth muscle, your growth mindset lately, you might feel like you're missing something. If service is your value and you haven't done an active service for yourself or specifically for someone else deliberately and purposefully, you might be missing something. That's the difference of when you can involve yourself in activity that feeds the very value that you are all about, right? So that value of that is when you are your best self, you need to be speaking through that value in order to be feeling purposeful. So let's talk a little bit about purpose. At US Vets, we really believe in feeding our employees purpose. It's the reason why we hire for culture compatibility first, even before experience and skill. Because we believe if we can feed a person's purpose and know what their values are and see if their values line up with ours, the performance will come, right? It's the same reason why all of us, even though we have already 100 things, Sonika talked about this, and so did Kool-Aid, 100 things that I do. I keep saying yes to things. And I was wondering, sitting in my seat, well, are you saying yes to things because you actually also really like them, right? So I have staff members because frankly, what is meaningful to us motivates us, right? So it's the same. I have a staff member who 2 weeks ago in supervision, she was like, I have 0 white space in my calendar. I need you to help me figure out how to do less and how to sit. Now, that is a valid point. Yes, I don't mean, well, if it feeds your value, take on all the things. There has to be a boundary somewhere. But so I, helped her through that exercise. 2 weeks passes and we have a couple new projects coming up and I assigned her to them. I happen to know her value is excellence and kindness. And she is much better at maximizing things than I am. So I'm very visionary, but I need her to put it on paper, come up with a strategic plan. And so I assigned her to be a lead on some of these national committees. She's a local staff member. So she emails me and she's like, I'm feeling so inspired lately. And she lists 5 new things she's doing with this project I gave her. And I said, isn't that funny that just 2 weeks ago you were feeling burnt out, yet you have time to take this on? She's like, yeah, but I'm totally living into my value. Because when you get a good feeling from something, right, that propels you to actually be able to do more of it and you can tackle more things. So here's the kicker, you guys, because as leaders and mothers and parents and partners and fabulous aunties, right, we don't always have time to do the self-care, work balance, typical suggestions. Take a day off, take a vacation, unplug. What? All these deadlines. I don't have that right now, right? Even when you're busiest, as long as you're living into your value, you can actually be propelled to find time to do more. So even when your tank is empty, if you can align with the things that feed our purpose, you'll find your tank being refilled, right? Because even though you couldn't take a day off, literally, if you're doing something in that day, even one thing that feeds into your values, it can give you some more energy. Is everybody following that? Like, you picking up what I'm putting down? I just need to feel. Okay, yes, I'm seeing a lot of nodding. Okay, that's good. Okay, so and you're going to give me a time warning, right, Rhonda? Okay, I'm the worst at that. I just keep going. Okay, so we've talked about connecting with ourselves, right? Connecting with our purpose. Now let's talk about the purpose, the power of connection with others. Because while that was designed to give you, how do you dig deep within yourself? You can control your own self and your own environment. I do really believe we were not meant to live life alone. So the power of connection with others also has to be a part of this conversation. And I learned a very valuable lesson in 2021. 2021 was just like full of lessons for me. Anybody have been in Leadership Las Vegas? Talk to me later about that. You should be. Well, Leadership Las Vegas, quick, so that you know what I'm talking about. Leadership Las Vegas is a chamber-sponsored program. It's about 10, 11 months long. And they pick 60 different leaders across various industries to learn about Las Vegas and how to make impact in our city. And I decided to apply and I was accepted. This is the second time. The first time in 2012, I was not accepted. And then in 21, I was, thankfully. And I say that to say it's a very elite programs. It's hard to get into. Well, I joined, honestly, because when you run a nonprofit organization, you have to get into the community and let other corporations and other industries know who you are, hoping that you will get their support. So I kind of had a self-serving purpose, right? I thought I was ready on day one to walk in to tell everybody what US Vets is about and why you should support veterans experiencing homelessness. Imagine my surprise when the chair said, so we're not going to talk about work here. And in fact, you will not talk about work for 5 months. I was like, well, then what are we going to talk about? Because that's what I do is just work. Well, of course, their point was to make sure we connect with each other for who we are first and not what we do. Right? And it felt very uncomfortable. I was like, but I am what I do. No, actually, I'm not. When they paired us on one-on-one BFF dates and they said, get to know each other, but don't talk about work. We kept a secret for 5 months. I had to learn more about other people and how to connect with them and more about myself. Right? And then I realized this is actually not that hard because I don't know about you guys, but many of us are like, I'm leader. I'm important. I'm so busy. I don't have time to connect with you. I don't have time to go to happy hour and meet for coffee. How do you find the time for that? Right. And then I started liking the one-on-one connections I was doing. I was starting to find more time for it and asking the next classmate when they have time for it. I go like, well, that's not so hard after all. 2 things I realized. One, when you do not have time for connecting with others is actually when you need it most. Is your schedule really that busy? You have no space for another person, right? And then when I was like going over this, like mind blown, like, so I do have time. I thought I had time. My dear friend Jason said, well, when you're connecting with the right people, they're actually giving you energy instead of draining your energy, right? So it's so important to be connecting with like-minded people and not even just people that you work with in your same sphere, but people who also care about who you are and you care about who they are, right? And that can fuel your relational need. Dr. John Townsend in his book, People Fuel, talks about in order to thrive, there's 2 types of needs that need to be met. A functional need, so that's air, water, food, housing, but then there are also relational needs, okay? And when you find your people who feed your relational needs, which I'll define in a second, they can be added to what we call your life team. That's what he calls the life team, or Brene Brown calls it your square squad, meaning if you cut a tiny square, 1 inch by 1 inch, you would think really hard, who are the people whose names really get me? The people who give me real talk and not small talk. They go on that square squad. You'll find it's not a very long list, but those are the people you want to be spending your time with. You have to carve out the time. It better be with people that you should want to connect with, who give you that energy, right? So here are the relational needs. It's a quadrant. The first is you have to have somebody who can be present with you and empathize with you. There's that word empathy again, right? So this is the person, not after a long day, you come home and go like, oh my God, my day was so draining. Like I said, you don't want to deal with those. I don't want to deal with staff drama anymore. It's not the friend who goes like, it's gonna be fun. You're going to be fine tomorrow. Not yet. You need that later. But you need somebody who goes like, it must be really hard, right? Somebody who gets you and sees you and you go, yes, it is hard. As a matter of fact, thank you for saying that, right? And then finally, when that person is ready to come out of that space, you need somebody who can affirm the good in you, convey the good, remind you, like the empowerment statements that the panel gave us. You can do hard things. You need the person who can tell you that and really who means that, right? And then you need someone who can provide you reality, gives you feedback, clarity, or purpose, a perspective, right? That real talk versus small talk person. And then finally, someone who calls you to action, because when you have hit the wall and feel unmotivated, sometimes it's somebody in your life team who goes like, all right, what's the plan? What is the plan here? What are we going to do? What's the first step we got to take so that you can get up, right? When you have those people, and also the main ingredient to all these people, they have to be available to you, because not everybody is available to us, right? If you just think about like your list of friends right now, like that's the friend that's the hardest to reach. That's probably not, they're your friend, but they're not necessarily the person that you can call on anytime for this. So it's really important to connect with others who can do these types of things for us and meet our relational needs, because those things together, the power of self, the power of purpose, and the power of connection, are the very things that can get you to the other side of when we're feeling unmotivated and when we need to inspire our performance. Okay. And that's my wish for all of you, that we are all able to connect with all of those things. And so I just got the 5-minute signal. And so I think that's where I wrap. But basically that is my wish, that we can connect. My wish is that you will do this, right? I'm going to give you actually, yes, this 2 action items. So I learned this recently, heard this recently. I was like, ah, isn't that true? I go to every conference. I am so inspired in the moment. I feel so good. Yes, I'm going to do all of these things. And then I get in my car and the phone starts ringing and I check in my email. And then I never went back to those good ideas, right, that I heard in the conference, right? Because the next set of things come up. So I'm going to leave you with some action and I'm going to ask you to think about how you can make time to do this. The first is name and profess your values and then tell people what your values are. The worksheet is right there for you with instructions. It doesn't take very long. It's not a whole long drawn out process. Actually, it comes very clear very quickly, as a matter of fact. So I leave you with that first action item. It can really change things. And especially when somebody else knows your values and then they see you demonstrating them and somebody says it to you, you feel like you have the energy to just keep going on when somebody like affirms your values. It's so good, you guys, better than Peloton. Good, come on. Like, well, so good. And then the second action is make connections. So try to avoid when you feel yourself going like, well, it sounds like a good idea to get together with those people, but I don't really have the time, maybe later. Like, try to just avoid putting it off because the power of connection with the right people can really give you the energy you need when you need to inspire your performance. Okay? So that is what I have. And in fact, two things. Since we're being deliberate about our connection, the values work is based on Dr. Brene Brown's book. Rhonda taught us not to stand over there. Dare to Lead. Not only because you like free things, but if you really feel like you want to dive deeper to the values work, but here's the kicker, also want to connect with me because I want to talk about it because we're being deliberate in connections. I give you this book. I only have one though, so you got to make it over to me. My business card is hidden in here though. I expect though that you should tell me and connect with me about it because it's been so impactful. So come see me. If there's more than one of you, then wants it, take a picture of my contact information and let's connect. But I'm going to make you do the first move because it's hard to put ourselves out there sometimes to make connections. So I'm just giving you an incentive, not just the book, but I promise to make it fun if we connect also. Okay, so be purposeful in your connections, everybody. And I hope this inspired you to take some action that you can do outside of here and find a way to lift yourself up and inspire your own performance because I know we are always putting others before ourselves. That's it. Thank you so much. Sure, of course. 3 questions. Yes, ma'am. You know what it actually has done is, well, I have noticed for sure that not many people don't know what their values are, really have defined it. So in that way, but once you get into these conversations, like when we started bringing it to people who, lack of a better term, people in my organization who I was like, they're totally not going to buy into this, right? Like, no, I have the sum. Everybody has the sum. But because it's so personal that people feel really empowered when they go like, oh, that is totally my value, right? Then I probably get a phone call for sure, at least weekly, of somebody going like, guess how I lived into my value this week? It actually has done the opposite of isolating each other. We have felt, you get to build a mutual trust with somebody when you know their values, not because you share the same values, but you care enough to see how that person lives into their values. And then you find that they start doing that for you. It's just been very impactful. So actually, I've found it the opposite of isolating. Yeah, it's been really profound. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, no, I get that. And actually, you know, it's funny. Square Squad Life Team, I go back and forth. Dr. Townsend Life Team, in his book, People Fuel, has an actual formula of how you recruit people to your life team. And this is the beauty of it too. He said like, and you don't have to think that this is somebody you have to meet with regularly in person. Like the first step of a life team is like, you just have a group chat and like, you just drop in each other's, how are you doing? It goes from how you're doing to like, here's my wins. This is what I did. This is what it's really sucking right now. You just get in the habit of communicating more often. And it even can sometimes just start with a group chat. So he does have a formula for how you recruit for it. Mm-hmm. But for the Square Squad, I think the most basic things are like those 4 things. Who are the people that give you real empathy, talk real to you, who have time for you, call you to action? Think about that. Yeah, great. Thanks.